Should we buy or sell the Communication Services ETF VOX? First off, read this disclaimer carefully. Then do your good deed of the day by liking and subscribing. So here is VOX, 16% from the 52-week low, but 27% away from the highs. So in this case, disaster struck. I made the entire video. Then I find out that there was no audio whatsoever for the video, 0. So I had to go all the way back to where we are now and do it again. So here are the weeklies. Nothing special on the weeklies. I'm just going to breeze through because I have looked at it. So the key thing for you to take into account now is the green 50-day moving average. It's the number one indicator in play. Was support back here, here, and here, here, and here, and here. So it definitively matters. But it can also be a bit of a spooky level. You see that it can be surgical resistance and also be a level where the bulls, they just get really, really intimidated by the selling from the bears. So it currently is a level where I expect the bulls to do something. But it's very much to be determined because we are pulling back after a pretty substantial rally. And there's a bit of a risk that the sell-off became self-reinforcing. But yeah, 50 days should offer support. If the bulls are not able to rally from the 50-day or to start to get some lift before we even touch it, then that is a clear sign that there is more selling pressure, maybe enough to turn the 50-day into resistance, which is definitively not good. Noisy on RSI and PPO, also on the daily, is not a clear signal. So let's jump to the seasonality. The key thing here with the seasonality is that to the left, it's bullish, but to the right in the table view, we have had a big loss for February so far. March is, however, not a particularly bullish month either. And then April is more bullish, at least recently, but then May is overall more bearish. Let me quickly look at the fundamentals. Here is year-to-date performance, here is beta, and I am comparing IXP, the Global Communication Services ETF, with the VOX. Here is the yield. So basically, here are my notes. 50 daily moving average support, technicals bullish, seasonality slightly bullish, slightly bearish on the fundamentals. The IXP is a bit better value. On relative performance, -5 in let me show you how I reached that conclusion. So here are the correlations. Long term, 67 with S&P 500, perfect with IXP, 91% with the social media ETF, so-called. On the dailies, 83% with the S&P 500, perfect with IXP, and 91% with SoCal. So the key thing is that when I compared the two, let me show you here. Well, it's clearer here actually on the seasonality. VOX against IXP, like that. Okay, dailies. So you see that VOX usually underperforms IXP into mid-March. The problem is that okay, so on the one hand, you usually see more strength from VOX later into that month, but when you look here at the table view, you see that March is usually very favorable for IXP in this pair. April it can be bullish for VOX, but it's very much there is higher risk that it will be weak, at least looking back to 2011. And May is also more favorable to the IXP. So yeah, that's how I came to this conclusion. So because of the technical mishap in the video, I am going to now go through a lot of interesting stocks. So there's been a bit of a shift because I find it so tiresome to say the same thing again and again. But yeah, now you do have the analysis of VOX. So let's look at various stocks that have V, O, and X in the ticker. So here is Visa. Mm, yeah, nothing. There's not like a key event at the. Here we have. Well, this is messy. If we found support at the green 50-day, then it would be a key technical event, which would be bullish. In this case, you have a loss of the support level after a pullback. So it's neither really interesting for bulls or bears. Okay, so let's look at other V stocks. Verizon's, let's look at V like that. Yeah, let's look at the CBOE volatility index, the VIX. So here is VIX on the weeklies. It is actually relatively low, so there's been a period of limited volatility that can be a bit contrarian, meaning we might be due some volatility. Here on the dailies, yeah, there are some clear time cycles when it comes to volatility. The cycles have differed a bit over time, as you can see, but periods of low volatility are usually followed by higher. So let's go to VIX, get the seasonality. Yeah, so usually there is low volatility into all the way actually into April. So that is potentially could be bullish, but these are averages. When you look here at the table view, you can see that March usually is a period of higher asset prices, which means a lower volatility. So what red numbers here is actually bullish for the stock market, well, specifically for the S&P 500. So and also here April is usually a period where the VIX loses, which means that the volatility is going to go down. So yeah. So this is bullish for asset prices then, at least into April. Let's look at securities that start with O, because we looked initially at VOX. Realty Income Corporation. Well, what was that? Was it a fund REIT? Realty Income Corporation. I think it's a stock. Let's look here. I think it is yeah. It is a stock. It's real estate investment trust. Do we have a technical signal? Not on the weeklies. On the dailies, very messy. We had the green 50-day moving average. Now we have lost it. But yeah, I prefer a clear signal because if you were to like short this now, then you would be shorting O after a 5% loss. It doesn't mean it can't go lower. I mean, if you look here as an example, it went very low. It's just that if you say were to short O here, then you would have potentially actually 8 days of frustration until you really started to see profits. But yeah, as you see, it was very choppy initially. But yeah, O could definitively go lower given that we lost the key support level. But I do prefer to get into short positions earlier, such that I have a hedge and I can avoid the frustration period. Because that kind of volatility can just be a bit of a chop when you sit there with a profit. But if you sit there with a position that is a bit profitable, then loss, profit, loss, yeah, it's not as comfortable. Here is Occidental Petroleum, OXI is the ticker. This one might actually be at the horizontal support. You can draw a support line here. A bit of an interesting setup. The issue though is that we also have a rounding top pattern, which is a very long-term bearish technical pattern on the weeklies. So it could be a big topping pattern, but you also see here that this one has a bit of a tendency to rally pullback, rally, pullback, have these small time cycles. So based on those technicals, it might actually have a bit of a bounce in it. Let's look at RSI and PPO. Yeah, this is a level that could trigger some rally on the dailies. On the weeklies, then it's not as promising. Looking at the seasonality, decent here to the left. 9% loss here for February so far. March is very weak though. Going back here to 2012, it is rather weak. 2022 was extremely bullish, but yeah, March is actually the worst month in the table view. That's not good. We are at support on price book in blue and also price to sales in copper. Now let's look here at the price targets. 0.88% yield, so very, very mediocre yield. Bullish price targets, average is 28. Analysts are at a strong buy. So there's that. Okay, so that was Occidental Petroleum. Now let's look at securities that start with X because we looked at VOX. Here is United States Steel Corporation. So it's already had a very strong rally, now pulling back a bit. The green 50-day is pretty interesting because it's currently at support. It was important back here and here, so it's an indicator with a lot of history. I mean, it seems like the bulls are coming in here to buy. Seasonality here to the left is very weak. Pretty flat here for February, but you see here that March is extremely volatile. It can be like big green numbers, but also flaming red. April is really bearish. It's one of the worst months, so that's not bullish. Yeah, so looking at the bigger picture here for United States Steel, price book is a bit elevated. Price to sales, it is not at all-time highs, but you see that there's been a bit of a pickup in that those indicators, meaning that there's not as much value now as it used to be. 0.78% yield, a mediocre yield. Ooh, analysts' price targets are bearish. Average is 10%-ish below us. Neutral stance from the analysts. Okay. So even though technically we are at we are not at the horizontal support level, but we are at a moving average support. There were other data points that increased the risk of support breaking. Other X stuff here. Let's see if we go double. Here is XXL. This is a sports store in Norway. Yeah, really just getting smashed here in the charts. But it's one of those situations that if the situation were to improve and go up here, all of a sudden you see that, approaching 800% gain. Looking at the dailies, I mean, this is very bearish, clearly. Seasonality is not really that bullish. 12% loss here for February. March is very bearish. Here are the valuations. We are very low on valuations. So the problem for this store is that it's famous and infamous in Norway because they have extremely competitive pricing, but their pricing is so competitive that it's not sustainable. Yeah, so that's been been their strategy, to take market shares, to sort of have ridiculous pricing to outmaneuver and to make it difficult for the competition. But when you have a stock chart like we just saw, that means that the strategy is very dangerous. Yeah, the price targets are still below us, so notwithstanding the big sell-off, the analysts basically think that this current business model is just doesn't work. So yeah, we have looked at a bunch of stuff now. Unfortunately, the first video I made of VOX, it didn't have any audio, so this video became a bit of a different thing, but you did get all of the analysis I did on VOX. You just got the abridged version, but on the upside, you got tons of other stuff. A lot of securities that have V, O, and X in the ticker.